embarrassed, to be honest, that I took. You just live with it. You just don't even notice until.
You have to do with this protocol.
All my life I've been saying I don't give two shits, but I am giving two shits.
That's amazing. For you, that's amazing.
Okay, I'm getting in that rut for the first time.
That's amazing.
There's like 6 people on the planet that literally throw a party over this. You're one.
I'm one of them. Brother, but that tells me when you say, "Oh, that's just I've always had these problems. It's hereditary." No, it's not. It was lifestyle. Something was, there was some combination
It
of
took.
things. Are we on now?
All right. Yeah.
Are we good? We're good? All right, guys.
One,
So we
two,
had some
yep.
technical difficulties. Salo had to do Salo magic. I don't know who screwed it up, but he fixed it. He had to put a new board in. Something was burned out. So it's just the devil. He doesn't want us to talk to you guys. So
Yeah, this
welcome
must
to
be it.
R-Rated Christianity, where we talk about our faith. We good? Okay, don't be flicking me off. And we talk about our faith. We look at the world and politics, society, theological issues through a biblical lens. The R stands for real, raw, redemptive. We have real conversations in a raw way, but hopefully leads people to a redemptive relationship with Jesus Christ. And we're just going to jump in 2 feet into the deep water today. Ever since Charlie Kirk's assassination and all the topics that have kind of spawned off from that, politics comes up a lot. And you and I don't shy away from politics. I mean, we've defined politics and the definition of politics, and not partisanship, but what politics means. We've made the claim, and I think we can back it up very strongly, that Matthew 28:19 is a political movement. It's not a partisan. See, only us in the United States are we obsessed with Republican and Democrat. No other country gives a shit because nobody else has a Republican and Democrats. Some countries have 12 political parties, others have 14, others have multiple ones, and maybe not. But we're the only ones that are obsessed with this donkey and elephant stuff, and we should be obsessed with the lamb, as we talk about. Sam Rodriguez, the pastor, I got that from him. But we can't avoid politics, nor should we avoid politics and so in these political discussions, one of the many criticisms, and I think false criticisms, that have been lodged against Charlie Kirk, and he's not here to defend himself. Many of them have been, he's a racist, he's this, he's a homophobe, he's a transphobe, and all this stuff. But the world's definition of hating is disagreement, and that's not a good. That's a terrible definition. The church is in trouble, and they should be in trouble if we're going to define hate as disagreement. Well, then they hate us too, and so it's just a world of hate. Everywhere is hate, and disagreement is disagreement. It doesn't have to be hate. But another term that has been thrown around and lodged, not just at Charlie Kirk, but any Christian, is Christian nationalist. And so as we talk about today, some people think it's a curse, other people think it's a calling. You have some Christians that cringe from it, and others, that they're so happy and proud of it. And I'm neither. I don't cringe, and I'm not proud. I don't embrace it. I don't believe it's a calling to be called a Christian nationalist. I'm a Christian. But I think we need to define these things, because I think it's important to get to the definitions, because if we're working off different definitions, then we're really not having a discussion that's meaningful, because maybe somebody's using it in one way, we're thinking something another way. But Christian nationalist is not a compliment. Critics use that to kind of shut down a Christian, and we can talk about when that comes up. Wanted to talk about your thoughts just going into this, because we're going to just dive in, and I want to have I think we should define some terms that I think would be helpful in us having this discussion about Christian nationalists and how the church should respond to that.
And I guess I know how you mean it. I choose to say this. Because of how I think the term should be defined, I embrace it in the sense that Christian defines everything in my life. So I asked today, just jokingly, when you and I were texting back and forth, which one would you rather be? Do you want to be a Christian nationalist or a nationalist Christian? I don't want anything to define my Christianity. Christianity is defined by Christianity, right? By God's priorities in the Bible. And then that should predicate everything. So the way I look at my nation is influenced by the way I look at my faith. So nationalism simply means a loyalty and a devotion to your nation, right?
Yep.
So that's a basic Webster definition. And so...
well, there's more to that, Webster. I looked it up too. But you're exactly right. Loyalty and devotion to a nation expressed
Yes.
as elevating one nation above all others,
Yes.
which nothing wrong with that, and a stressing of the promotion of its culture
Yes.
and its interests.
Yes.
Culture we define as the way we do things. So
Yes.
what is the way the Americans, the United States
So in
of
its
America
simplest
does
form, it's simply loyalty and devotion to your nation. And the one would presume it's because you like things
All
about
those
your
things,
nation.
yeah.
To be fair to your point, now just to look at nationalism separately for a moment, that's a wonderful thing. It's a biblical concept. I mean, if you look at the Abrahamic covenant, when God promised in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 4, that he was going to make a great nation out of Abram, whom he was blessing with land and seed, because of Abram's faithfulness. And so that's a nationalistic statement because he is going to bring them into a new nation made up of borders, language, and culture. None of this has any meaning outside of the concept of being a nation. There's nothing inherently wrong with being a nation, and there's nothing inherently wrong with being proud of your nation. In fact, the Israelites were encouraged to be proud of their law and their customs. They were called to be a holy nation, not just a holy people, but a holy nation, to be distinct from pagan nations. And if you were going to come in to ancient Israelite culture, you had to adopt the culture and the laws and the customs of Israel to become an Israelite. So attached were they to their national identity. Now that didn't that wasn't the most important thing. Their relationship with God was of primary import, and so I think we can learn some things from that. We ought to be proud of our nation. I'm proud of the borders of our nation. I'm glad the United States is what it is. I'm glad its ideals are what it is. I'm proud of the culture that is the American culture. But there is such a thing as having such a loyalty to your nation that is excessive. And we've seen throughout the 20th century examples of excessive nationalism, where you are so preoccupied and so attached to your national interests that there are minorities, people in the nation that get marginalized and indeed abused. I mean, the best example of extreme nationalism in the 20th century is Adolf Hitler. That's extreme.
And that's the example that people bring
Extreme
up.
nationalism. No, he wasn't a right winger. He was actually a left winger. He was a socialist. The Nazis were a national socialist party. And he elevated socialism to such an excess that he ended up literally marginalizing millions and millions of people and ultimately leading them to their extermination. So there are examples of extreme nationalism. But when we talk about Christianism, you're right. It's not meant as a compliment. It's usually meant to tar Christians who, as Mark David Hall says, are motivated by their faith to advocate for policies that critics don't like. And so it's not meant as a compliment. It's meant as a pejorative. And so, but how should we respond to that? So I think defining terms is important. And I think every Christian ought to start by saying, well, how do you mean that? And then saying, well, here's how I mean it.
Yeah, I just don't think that I want to make a point about nationalism, but I mean this is a modern term, right? It's not in the Bible. It's not a biblical term. You get the concepts, right, to be proud of your nation. That's fine, but to tie in Christian nationalist, I mean when you understand I mean it's not like how long has that term been around? I guess I'm asking sincerely.
Well, if you want to look at the really sort of the philosophical roots of Christian nationalism,
No,
you
I
gotta
get
go
it.
back
But
to
how
the
long is that
60s.
term? How long has that term been around?
Nationalism?
Christian nationalist.
Right. So I think you'd have to go back in the literature, in the scholarship. I think the earliest book that I can think of goes back to about 2006.
Okay, well, so fairly recent.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So that's kind of a modern political
But the philosophy
term.
of Christian nationalism
That's
precedes
different.
that.
That's different. That's
Yeah.
different. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm not going to play this game with people. I mean, so when people say you're a Christian nationalist, like, what do you mean by that? And I'm not going to play their game because I know what they're trying to do. It's a political game. I mean, maybe I've been in politics too long to where I understand that they'll tit for tat. You go to a soccer game and you're going to see Mexican nationalists because they love their country, and there's nothing wrong with that. You go to a football game, you're going to see Irish nationalists, UK, England nationalists. You're going to see all the different countries that are super proud. So to your point, the idea of nationalism, there's nothing wrong with that. Just to have a loyalty and devotion to your nation, period, end of story. And patriotism, love of one's own country. So if you're a patriot, you love your country. You're a national, you're loyal. So you have patriot means you love your country Nationalist means that you're loyal and devoted to your country. Love,
Yes.
loyalty, devotion.
The America First nationalist, like a nationalist? Say the same thing?
I think America First, my opinion, I haven't thought about this, but it's a great question. I think the America First ideology is nationalism. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
because you have a love of your own country. America
Yes.
should come first. It's definitely nationalistic, meaning you have a loyalty and devotion to your country above other countries. But see, you have a love and a devotion to your wife and child above all others too. I mean, so I don't, this is not this concept. The hypocrisy is off the charts to me, right? So
It's not that you value one, you devalue the other.
it's not that you're devaluing the other ones; it's that you value one more. I mean, so if you say that you're supposed to love all people and that we're supposed to be ministers of the gospel because we love people, but your first stewardship and your first responsibility is to your wife and child, that's a biblical concept. And so the idea that we have a love of our country, that's the problem. There's people that use this as a pejorative and criticize. They don't love this country.
No, they don't.
And they
They
don't
don't.
have a loyalty or devotion to this
No,
country.
they're severe critics of the
we're
country. Yeah.
completely off. And that isn't, and forget about, I'm not even bringing in Christianity yet. That's all I'm saying. And so, and then usually Christian nationalism, from what I've seen and observed and read, comes up whenever the critic perceives just even a hint of a connection between your faith and your political persuasion or your political ideology and political views. What? You're going to let your faith influence your political views? You're a Christian nationalist because they want to shut you down. But what intrigues me is I don't hear anyone say you're an Islamic nationalist. Because if you want to talk about a worldview and a religion, that when you have one caliphate under one caliph, there ain't no question about it. And it's not done by persuasion, it's done by domination. And so when we're going to talk about Islam as the month and weeks go on, because that topic is up and coming and hot. And I mean, if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the UK and Europe and Dearborn, Michigan, and what tried to happen in Texas and other areas of this country, then you're asleep. You got your head in the sand, and wake the hell up.
But I like to take the direct approach of saying I don't have any problem with the idea of being a Christian nationalist.
But why play that game? I'm a Christian who loves my country.
But I'm not playing that game. I'm saying.
But it's their game, not that you're. I know you're not,
No,
Daddy.
I'm just
It's their game. Is my point.
Because I know what's at the root of their issue, but you said it right. These are people who have a disdain for the country, and they have disdain for the prevailing philosophy that has shaped the country, which is undoubtedly Judeo-Christianity. And so they fuse those two together into a boogeyman. And I don't play that game, but I go directly into that headwind because I say, look, let's just think about this for a moment. So I as a Christian,
But you're not. But they're not playing with your definition. That's the problem. Why not tell them? Why not say I'm a Christian who's loyal and devoted to
No,
this
hold
country?
on a second. I
That's
want to
it.
go to the root of the attack, which is that my faith, that I should somehow. Let me use the scholarly argument here. Andrew Whitehead and Samuel Perry, they're professors who have.
I read them.
Who
I
have
read them. I read about them.
I have the book. You should
Sure you
read.
do.
You should read the book. I think because their whole point, and they're actually some of the more sensible people, but their whole point is that they have a problem with this fusion of your Christian convictions with American civic life.
Well, then they have a problem with the founding fathers.
And what I'm saying is, I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm proud of that. That's all I'm saying. That's exactly. But that's also a biblical mandate. There ought to be a fusion. There ought to be a harmonization. And I don't mean where we compromise. I'm saying that there ought to be, and maybe an integration. I meant to say, not harmonization. There ought to be an integration of my faith with my calling to be a good citizen. Because one is invariably going to affect the other. My faith informs every aspect of my life.
Sure.
Why not how I respond to my responsibility to be a good citizen?
I guess just to me,
Why
maybe it's
carve
because-
out a caviat for the nation?
I
That's
know.
all I'm saying.
I've been in this game, and it's a distraction to some people because I'm not worried about the people that no matter what I say. Now we're just talking preference here. We're not. I mean, there's no biblical mandate to say you have to be a Christian nationalist. I mean, our faith should influence everything. I mean, period in the story. Matthew 28:19, as we've talked about before, is a political statement. Political meaning the definition, a set of ideas advocated by a group of people to affect the lives of others. And if people were to use that definition, which is a good definition, it's an accurate definition, set of ideas advocated by a group of people to affect the lives of others. Matthew 28:19, as we've said many times before, is a political move. It's a political statement. Go into all nations, making disciples of all men, teaching them to obey all the. Go, who? Christians. Teaching them to obey all that I've commanded. A set of ideas gone out by a group of people, Christians, obey to affect the lives of others.
Yeah.
That is a political, not partisan. Again, there's no Republican, Democrat back then. That's a political movement. There's politics in every organization you work. You work, play, live. There's politics in your home, not partisanship. I mean, there's a set of ideas advocated by the parents and the head of the household to affect the lives of their kids. That's politics.
Sure.
And polity is that group. So we get so goofy because we think of politics and we automatically, because it's an idol to us as a nation, Republican, Democrat. And that's why, for me, and maybe it's because I'm, punch drunk from being in so many political fights, I'm not worried about the people that I'm never going to change their mind. I'm worried about the people that, credit to Charlie Kirk, going out there trying to change the people's minds that are just confused or ignorant. Ignorant just mean not knowing, or on the fence, or have questions, or whatever they're doing out there. And they're open-minded to listening. And then when you get that tagline that it's been commandeered. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, look, we used to be able to say the word gay. Oh, I feel merry and gay. Well, you can't say that anymore. You used to be able to say a lot of things and we as citizens that have either a conservative ideology or a biblical, we've allowed people to just take over terms, and the church has been, that's just happened.
We have.
And so this is one that they've commandeered, in my humble opinion. This is just my opinion. And so I just don't even play that game. I've been in too many interviews. I've been in too many debates and too many town halls that, are you a feminist? Are you a this? What's your definition of that? Let me tell you what I am. I'm not going to let you define what I am. I'm going to define it, and then we'll label it later. You're going to label me no matter what, but I'm going to tell the audience what I am.
I just think it's important that we exposed, rhetorically, that we exposed what the real motivation.
I agree.
That's important.
I can do it without
And
embracing
usually
that term. That's all.
The conversations I've gotten into in this context, what I end up exposing is that they frankly have a problem with Christianity as a whole. Christianity should take your Christianity and shove it in a closet. That's basically what they're saying. So I say if I'm a Christian, and would you allow that I can be a Christian? Okay, yeah, we're still free to that point. So I can be a Christian. So why not and you brought up the point of Islam. Every other faith says that their faith can influence and inform every area of their life. But somehow if you're a Christian, you can't do that. So I basically am trying to point out that what they're doing is trying to isolate Christianity but
the church has handed that over a long time ago, in my opinion.
What's that?
The church handed that over a long time ago.
Because they didn't engage.
I know, brother, but I'm just saying. But we have to engage, we have to understand where we're at. I mean, because to the person say, I saw an interview where this one guy was a Christian. He was a proud Christian nationalist. It's like, for what? I mean, why do you even? And then you should have seen half the audience didn't even listen to him. Other people, that's all they kept throwing in his face. He got defensive. He got this. He was trying to push it. He came across wrong. The tactics were bad. Maybe I'm too much of a trial lawyer. And I was sided with him on most because he's a Christian. He just didn't represent it well. And I'm like, you lost me, guy. You lost. And so I'm just saying, for me personally, that term I don't need to embrace that term to be what I am. That's just for me. I'm a Christian. I'm a proud Christ follower. You know that. And I love this country. And I believe that the church needs to talk about politics more. And I jump right out there on that one. But when you say Christian nationalist, they automatically put you as some type of hate monger, control freak, all that other stuff. And then they don't even want to listen to you. And then it gets, I've seen it. It gets more. You lose your audience. And maybe, like I said, when I try cases, I have to think about what the audience needs, not what I want to say.
You win cases by compelling arguments. You don't win or lose cases over terms. You lose over how you define a particular term. And you, if you're an effective lawyer, and you're able to bring the audience around a set of terms and the concepts that whatever it is that you're arguing for. And all I'm saying is, I am tired of handing over terms. I mean, it's literally, can we please get some terms?
Well, let's get the rainbow back before we work on this one.
No shit.
For me.
No shit. I mean, I used to be gay. We used to say gay all the time.
I know.
In high school. And trust me, it wasn't. So, I mean, if I still say it, man, that is the gayest thing.
Yeah.
And some people look at me like, what did you just say? Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot it's
No,
2025.
but people used to use gay as happy.
I know, sure.
So that's gone.
Well, I didn't use gay as happy in high school. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but my point is, this is where we start losing ground. We start losing ground when we allow them, as you say, co-opt terms. They redefine them, and then all of a sudden, it's like there's less and less terms that you can pull from in your rhetorical arsenal. And I just think that
But see, for me, I guess,
the
George,
line
and
needs to be
this-
drawn.
I mean, it's a useful conversation because I think for me, we talk about it's not about the term, it's about the definition. So I'm going to just hang out in the definition, right? Because we say love, acceptance, affirming, all the terms that the left has
Yeah.
commandeered. They've commandeered all those terms from us, and we give those. I mean, I just think that the
But
church.
that's what I'm saying you do, I think, in a court of law, unless I'm simplifying it. You take a set of terms, you make sure they're properly defined, and then you build an argument around a proper definition of terms. And that's all I'm saying is I'm not going to hand over that term. It's just a different approach. And if trust me, if I fail, I'll redirect. But I'm just saying I'm
guess
not
test
going
it.
to hand over.
I understand your point.
I'm
Eddie.
not. I think that it makes sense to not hand over terms, to insist that they be properly defined, and that we develop proper concepts, politicking, around those terms, and then argue accordingly. And all I'm saying is we've spent decades handing over terms so that now we have less and less terms to argue with. We got to go back and seize them. Now, I'm not saying this is one approach. I mean, you don't need any help. You're perfectly effective in how you approach this.
Yeah, it's just this is more preference than anything.
But
else.
people are wondering, because we wanted to be provocative, is it a curse to be called a Christian nationalist?
I think it's a curse today.
To-
Today it's curse. It's a curse.
oh yeah, it's intended,
I
absolutely.
know, but
as a
it's
curse.
been law. That's my point. I guarantee you.
You're saying it's so loaded it shuts
It's
down
so
debate.
low, exactly, brother. You said it better than I. That's what I was trying to explain, but that's exactly what I meant. It's such a loaded term that when you say I'm tired of handing it over, and I'm saying, brother, that's been handed over a long time ago. That train has left the station. Save another term or go get something more simple than that one. It just conversations are. I've been in too many conversations, political conversations, and in debates and speeches at colleges and even high schools where that term is so loaded, and that's excellent way to explain it, that the people you can just see their eyes glaze over. Oh, you're one of them. Versus winning them on reasoning, like, damn, this guy makes so much sense. And like I do with Mo over here, it's like, and I give him terms on what it means, and he starts answering the questions like, oh shit. Then you realize, like, well, I guess I believe Christianity makes sense, and there's nothing wrong with having loyalty and devoted to your country. Let me go think about that one.
Fair enough.
And then you leave them, and then that's me.
It's a fair criticism. It does beg the question: at what point do we actually insist on getting some of those terms back, so that we can actually get a lexicon back, and we don't have blank pages in our dictionary? Because I mean, this is the problem, and this has been co-opted. And the American educational system is at the center of the blame here, because there's been a subsidized, concentrated redefinition of terms. The whole language is on its head. I mean, and this has been useful in revising American history this way.
Let's read a comment from our dear friend, my Alamo Talk, my compadre. I think the problem is that most people associate Christian nationalism with racism and white supremacy. That's all I'm saying, and I think he's right.
Well, that's how it's been defined.
Yeah,
that's
I think he's right. And I guess my point, I guess you summed up beautifully what Alamo Talk is saying, and what I was explaining in more detail, is that it's such a loaded term that even though I know that when you think about it, when you define Christian and you define what it means to be a Christian, and you understand Matthew 28:19, and you understand that ideas have consequences, and you understand, and then nationalism, just a loyalty and devotion to your country, there's nothing wrong with, I understand what you're saying, putting those together. The problem is, it's so loaded and it's so far down the train that you're going to lose the audience. And then I think how effective are we being? And I'm not into the fight for myself. I'm into the fight for the audience. I want to move the needle, and that's the way my mind thinks.
And Alamo Talk, good point. We are aware of that. I mean, Andrew Whitehead, what a name! Andrew Whitehead and Sam Perry, in Taking America Back for God, Christian Nationalism in the United States, in their book, they made that point. They defined it like the first part that we said, a fusion of how do they say it? It advocates a fusion of American civic life with a particular type of Christian identity or culture, and then they continue. So they had me right up to that point, and then they continue basically where Alamo Talk carried on.
Yeah.
That includes assumptions of nativism, which, by the way, is another way of saying you hate immigrants. So assumptions of nativism and white supremacy and patriarchy and heteronormativity, along with what they call this divine sanction for authoritarian control and militarism. You see? And so now you get into fascism. Now you get into this bullshit, and this is where it goes. And it's like, okay, you know what? Just take it. Take the term. Let me redirect over here.
I guess from a strategy standpoint, the church has done such a shitty job of engaging in politics. They're gonna draw the line on this term. I mean, I'm saying get involved in politics first, and polity, and persuading people, and these set of ideas advocated by the church to infect the lives of. Get into that world first before we start arguing over a term.
I guess I don't really care. I mean, I care about my nation. I love my nation dearly. But I care less about the nationalism part than I care about attaching the word Christian to it. I feel impelled to say, wait a minute, those are fighting words in a sense. I'm not just going to kind of hand over, because Christian's in there. Now you're talking about me. That is my identity, and so I take issue.
I'm going to read Hillary's
attached.
comment. So Hillary says, and I'm going to tell you what the shirt that she should wear.
Yes, Hillary lost in 2016. Oh, wrong.
No,
Hillary.
No, this is not Hillary. This is Hillary Partida. She's bold. The left is all about labels. I have a T-shirt that I wear often that says Christian nationalist. And I honestly think that the Christian portion of that phrase is more inflammatory to the left than nationalist. It all is. My point is, no matter what, you say I'm a Christian, that's going to inflame them. I'm a nationalist, they're going to think you're a Christian nationalist. I would say I'm a Christian politico. I'm a political Christian. What does that mean? There's a term. I'm a political Christian. That means that my Christianity should affect politics, my polity, and my advocacy.
Let me continue on this because
ahead.
I want to talk about a potential consequence that we see that I think is happening right now. What's happened is we have handed that over so much that now we actually have Christians that are infighting over this term. I'm not a Christian nationalist. You're a Christian. I'm not a Christian. And the problem is that you've literally created this sort of group of people that, all 7 of them, that literally are conflating, because I realize it's a problem, conflating, love for the creation of the universe, love for the Lord Jesus Christ with the United States of America. In other words, putting them on par. Are there a group of people who see it that way? Probably. But that is a fringe of a fringe. I literally don't know anybody like that. And I talk to Christians all the time. You talk to Christians all the time. I don't know anybody who puts the United States of America on par with God. I literally don't. I don't.
But if they do, they're not Christians.
No, correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Or they have a very contorted view of what the Scripture says is okay.
Probably not Christians.
But okay. But what I'm saying is that who are these Christian nationalists as defined by Whitehead and Perry? Who? I mean, I don't know any.
Yeah.
I literally don't know anybody. And if somebody can point somebody out, I always ask this question because I'm sure there's people out there. But again, I always come back to what influence do they have, what political power they have, what needle are they moving? Is there anybody in elected office right now that you can think of, certainly at the federal level? Is there anybody there who you would consider a Christian nationalist who literally fits the definition of Whitehead and Perry? I can't think of anybody. And I'll ask Alma Talk, can you think of anybody like that? And so my point is, it's a red herring.
But it's been effective.
It's tilting it when... Well, yeah, brother.
But
Because we have
all I'm saying is
we don't have the national media. That doesn't help.
Well, I know, but to Matthew 10:16, to be shrewd as a snake and innocent as a dove, right? I'm sending you out like sheep amongst wolves, and the goal is to move the needle. The goal is to move the needle, and and all the discussions I've been in, I'm just not going to play that game. For me personally, I mean, if you want to, Hillary, and with all due, I mean, I'm not saying this in criticism. It's good for you. If you want to wear that T-shirt, and if you think wearing that T-shirt moves the needle, then do it.
Well, I don't know that it moves the needle, but it'll certainly start a conversation.
Yeah,
And-
but I want conversations to move. I mean, we're not all Saulo that he wants just to be a provocateur. I want conversations to move the needle. I'm not in.
But the thing is, I understand what George is saying because they're gonna keep using this term forever. Like, you don't wanna play in it, I understand. But they're gonna keep using this term, so I think we need to salvage it, redeem it, be ready to, present a defense.
Yeah. Oh,
They're gonna
speak
keep using it.
speak of Christian nationalists.
Oh, there,
Mo just walked in.
there he is.
The ultimate Christian nationalist.
Bro Mo.
Yo!
We started late anyway because of Saulo, so
to see you.
you're good.
Hello, come on.
So jump in, get in. Are you okay? Real quick, let's figure this out. Are you a Christian nationalist?
I've learned from this studio, define terms.
Look at it.
Define terms.
That's right.
I would not. I don't go around identifying as a Christian nationalist,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Too much baggage with that word. I know Salo likes it though.
See
He
that?
puts it in his. He puts it in his Facebook profile.
Does he? Well, let me ask you this. Do you think?
Say that again. Say what he just said, because I would echo that. But say what he
Get in
just
the
said. But
microphone.
that's very different. That's very, well, is this on, Salah? 'Cause,
Yeah, it just you just can't hear it through your
okay.
earphone.
What I just got done saying to Nico, we were going back and forth. He says, man, I don't start the conversation, or I don't take that as an effective polemic or argument to say I'm a Christian nationalist. Let me explain why. And then have the appropriate definition attached to it. He says, because you'll lose people right at saying you're a Christian nationalist, and you'll never get them back. Fair point, especially the way that it's loaded today. I take the approach of saying I'll embrace the term. I'll embrace the term because I'm prepared to define it for what it actually
Yeah.
is, and not how it's being used. In other words, to weaponize my faith against me. And I'm motivated in part because I think the church has lost way too many terms already. In other words, we've handed over. I mean, I'm looking at my lexicon, Mo, and I'm running out of words, and so I guess I'm just kind of I'm irritated. We're among brothers. I'm irritated as hell that I'm handing over words, and I'm not okay with letting this one go because it's got a Christian attached to it. So I'd rather take the approach of saying, I'm a proud Christian nationalist, but let me explain what I mean by that. But quickly saying, let me explain what and immediately
I think
going
you're
into-
gonna see like the alien eyes go.
No, I want to use, and maybe this is a little Salo and rubbing off on me. I guess I want to use that outrage. It's Mark David Hall, I think, does the best job. I don't know if you're familiar with Mark David Hall's writings. He's a great scholar on this. He's written prolifically on it. He wrote a great book called, Did America Have a Christian Founding? And he attacks this issue head on. And he makes the point that this is yet another red herring. It's basically another boogeyman. It's another windmill. They're tilting at windmills. Fake heroes going after fake problems while ignoring real ones. This is not a real problem. And Nico's right. They've been effective, and I'm tired of it. And because it's got Christian attached to it, I'm struggling with just saying letting it go and then sort of redirecting. But anyway, that's it. I'll shut up.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is, I mean, you know me, I think our faith should influence our politique.
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure.
and we're seeing the negative effect of the church being silent in political discussions, because everything's a political discussion today. Abortion's not political to God. It's just an issue. It's not a political issue. Marriage, that's just an issue. It's an issue that God holds sacred. Marriage is sacred to God.
Yeah.
We talk about that today in Hebrews 13, right? How do you evidence of it be you being in the faith? Well, holding, marriage to a certain way, and then the marital bed. I mean, so it's gender. That's not a political issue to God. That's just His design. So everything's political. It got so bad, and this is where I guess I don't see the strategy in trying to save this combination of words versus going deeper. Get into I mean, there's so much that your church has given up. I mean, in Houston, and we looked it up a couple of weeks ago. Remember that?
was crazy.
Remember, you looked at me like, you're crazy, and I said, brother, you're crazy. It's coming here. Get ready, Pastor Momo.
Yeah.
I mean, where the mayor back then, different mayor now, was like, let me see your sermons, pastors.
Yeah.
But didn't ask for the sermons of the imams from the mosques or from anybody else.
Yeah.
Just from the piñata Christians.
Yeah.
Because we've established. So I'm worried. Let's get rid of this piñata culture first.
Yeah.
And then we'll start. I'm just thinking, like, when I'm looking at a battle and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that's one tank, but I got this whole battalion over here I'm going to save. I mean, it's like, I just, you can't do it all. And I'm just not going to hang out on a term with two terms that they bring together to make up their own bullshit definition. And I mean, there's so much battlefield that we've given
How
up.
do you use like getting to that point of like the wholehearted like pureness of whatever
Christian nationalism? I just say
How
I'm
do
a
you,
Chri-
you
I'm a
how would
Christian
you
that loves this country.
articulate it? Yeah.
I'm a Christian that loves this country.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? It means what I said it means. I'm a
Yeah,
Christ
yeah.
follower. I'm an
Yeah.
unapologetic
Yeah.
Christ follower that loves this country and
Yes.
thinks that the church needs to get more involved in
Yeah.
the political process.
Yeah.
That's exactly what, and you know that I say. That's it. And so I don't even worry about that. And then the audience, they're not. I don't get the alien eyes. And then I start defining these things, and we start
sure.
talking about that.
I think this is a perfect example. He had a different idea, or still has, I don't know, about what the definition means. he has a definition. You have what it feels like or what people are interpreting. What did you think? Our first conversation about that, you're like, what
Yeah.
did
It
you
was
think?
like Alamo talks.
Has it changed or is it the same?
It's the same. I get exactly what Nico's saying, and I get what George is saying as well. But I think it's more, and I don't know, maybe George can enlighten us on like when it was first used and how it's the
2006.
origins
I asked
and
him
all
already.
the-
I already asked him.
I mean, like yeah, all the stuff, right? See how we all know.
What was your initial idea of what it meant?
When it popped up, by the time I heard it, it was already loaded with all bunch of crap of like all this other stuff and the ways in which it can actually be weaponized and like the ugly side of it and the bad examples and bad faith actors within the faith community and us kind of labeling that's what Christian nationalism. It was just all of that. So I was like, why? I don't.
What's the other side?
So I would say the danger side of like where people start labeling is where it becomes. I would say the mixing of Christian faith too much. I would say the ugly side is the idolatry side. It's an order of affections. I would say when you love it so much. I mean, it's Scripture talks about it so much, right? Where we get to a place where, Jesus talks about, if you love your father and mother more than you love me, you're not ready to inherit the kingdom of God. He's not saying hate your parents. He's saying there's an order.
Yeah.
There's an order of affection. And I think that with anything in particular, this is the topic, but with anything, there can be a subtlety of a disordered affection. And to the point where it's so much of a blurred lines that's like, is this Christ or is
No,
this America? Where are we
Great.
at? What is the?
Well said, man. Render to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. They are not the same.
Yeah.
And that's what we were saying. I think that there is a fringe. I'm sure there are people out there who literally put the United States of America on par with
Yeah.
the God of the universe.
Right.
That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
It is indeed idolatry. So I guess I'm just stepping back to that 2006 date. In the modern era, I mean, we can literally go back to Rousas Rushdoony. I don't know if you're familiar, he's an Armenian guy. In 1965, he said that Christ should have sovereignty and supremacy over everything. Everything is his. There's not a single sphere of my life that Christ doesn't say mine. And
Ooh,
so,
I
so
like
that which is well said. And then he said, look, to me, that from a platform perspective, politically, that's he literally believed in creating a distinctly Christian society. That's where he went too far, right? Because then it became, and then this gave, as Nico's concerned about, giving fodder to your opponents.
Right.
The 2006 book is written by I think a sociologist, Michelle Goldberg, and she made the point, and man, the book is like, it's called Kingdom Coming: The Rise of Christian Nationalism or something like
Okay.
that in 2006. And she says that, look, this isn't about fairness. Christian nationalism isn't about fairness. It's about dominion. It's about creating a theocratic state. That was her point. And that's when it started. That's when things started going in that. And she goes, it's conflated with white evangelicals. And then there was a racial element to it. And it's a nationalist political movement. And it elevates these white evangelical males over every minority. So racial politics are embedded into that. And then that's where you get into white supremacy, and then heteronormativity. I mean, so there's all kinds of crap that are being put in there
Yeah.
to mount this argument.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we gotta. I don't know how we. So what do you say? Do you just literally break each one of those up into its own separate topic?
I mean, I'm not gonna give them because if I'm trying to, it doesn't matter what I think when I'm trying a case. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what those 12 people think because they're the ones going to give me the verdict. And if I'm trying to move the needle and bring people to Christ, I care about my audience. I'm not trying to win a debate in my mind or like I won on technical points. I mean, I tried this. My law partner, one of my law partners, tells me I was one of his kind of assistant mock trial coaches when I was a lawyer. And his first case he tried against me. I mean, I have permission to talk about this. And he was trying this case, and he was making all these mock trial points in front of a jury. And he beat up this physician's assistant that we put on, but he was coming across like a dick. and he tells the joke right now all the time. He's the best trial lawyer I've ever worked with, Jason Goss. He's a phenomenal lawyer. As a great prosecutor, great defense attorney, he's a phenomenal lawyer. And he goes, and he reminds me, I forgot. I leaned over to him and I said, "Hey, Jason, thank you." He goes, "For what?" "I'll tell you after." And he goes, you said it just like that. You didn't say anything else. You weren't cocky. You just said thank you after he crossed. He goes, I thought I had her and I made all these points. The jury hated. I had to get in between the jury after they came back with a not guilty. And he thought his kid had the case won.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, hold on. He's a good man. And he was like, what? He totally read the room wrong. He was making great points,
Right.
but he had lost his audience. And I want to win my audience. So to me, I tell people I'm a passionate, unapologetic Christ follower who loves this country and believes the church should be more involved in the political process. That's it.
sure.
And I'll dissect any part of that for you, and I'll defend it with objective evidence.
Yeah.
And so that's me. That's why Christian nationalism to me is the church has allowed it to become a curse. How about that? I'm not saying it is a curse, but the church has handed it over to become a curse.
100%.
And that's it. And I
100%.
don't know if you were here, Momo. I think you missed this part. But I said I've never heard anyone call someone an Islamic nationalist. But that's but they're not even secretive about it.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the
Yeah.
videos that I've been sending you
For
guys,
sure.
and I wish we could post them. I mean, people better wake the hell up, and we're going to talk about Islam on
Yeah.
here as the weeks go by. But I mean, they're trying to establish one caliphate under one caliph. That is what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it's an imperialistic mindset. There's no peaceful coexistence. You either pay the jizya or you get trampled. I mean, it's just that under a truly theocratic Islamic like Yemen and Afghanistan, there's no Christian,
Yeah.
Hindus, Buddhists flourishing in these countries. They're just not.
To you, something that you say on the pod often that I think is like befitting for the conversation is you can really see someone if you give them
Power
and
and power or problem. You'll find out someone's true character
Yeah.
if you give them power or problems.
And I think with the conversation, and for me, whenever hey someone to use this, I love you want to use it, awesome, love it. But that would be a little my warning of like, hey, as we gain, as a Christian nationalist or whatever the case, as you gain power, as you gain, whatever problems, but it's more so the power aspect of it. Just be mindful. Like, and what I mean by be mindful is you say this all the time, Nico. My flag can fall out of my Bible. My Bible isn't wrapped
In my flag,
In my
absolutely.
flag. And so it's just subtle. I think that's the thing for me is like, just be mindful because we've seen historically where it can get mixed and honestly where it's like, this is not the Christian faith.
But I guess one thing that I warn, I'm going to kind of do this.
Yeah, both and.
I'm not trying to do it that way, but I want to make sure that there's complexity. I mean, I'm sorry, completeness in my argument. We've used, the declarations from Congress over and over in here. I mean, this is overwhelmingly a Christian, Judeo-Christian country. Overwhelming. I mean, and George and I and other people, not just us, we didn't start it. There's been people doing it for decades before us that can defend the fact that some set of ideas undergirded this experiment. I mean, they weren't Islamic, they weren't Hindu, and they weren't Buddhist. They were overwhelmingly Judeo-Christian. I understand the Establishment Clause. I get it. That there's not going to be one religion established, but there should be one religion that influenced. And you can look at any of them. I mean, John Jay, who was the first Supreme Court justice. You can look at all the founding fathers. Read their letters. That's like their emails. Listen to their speeches.
Yeah.
And then look at the declarations from 1856 and 1853 from Congress. And we've read them here before. They're in the minutes of Congress.
yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt that some idea said, if we're going to start something new, and every other country had been a monarch and a king ruled. I mean, it's going to be of the people, by the people, for the people. We need educated people. We need virtuous people.
Yeah.
And there's some set of ideas of checks and balances. And how can we have a small government and a big citizen? And these are Judeo-Christian principles. Even God doesn't force himself on us. He says in Revelations 3, I'm going to knock on the door. And if you open it up, I will come in and dine with you. Intimacy.
Yep.
Because that's what he wants from us.
Yeah.
And so our country is set up, not this administrative state where a big government comes in and controls everything. We shouldn't have Christians have to control everything. If the Christian influence is real in this country, the love of Christ controls us because you love your neighbor as yourself.
I think that's
And
problem
it's better
is-
to serve than to be
As
served.
you're
really
listening as I was listening to what you're saying, it occurs to me that so many things have changed, but yet so many things are the same. So the founders were largely influenced by Judeo-Christian ethic, and they made no bones about it,
None.
even in their private correspondence. And so it just occurs to me that obviously they were nationalists. they love the
Starting this country,
the
yeah.
United States of America, but they were also Christians, and they were professing. They were actually overt in expressing how their Christian worldview affected their their policy, their view on policy. Today, a significant portion of the United States Congress they're professing Christians. It's about where are we at right now? It's about 71%
Really?
of Americans. No, it's actually higher than that. So
In Congress? Oh, wow. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah, it's about 88%.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Crazy.
But the fact that we're going no way and that's
No, no, no,
crazy
no.
shows me
Yo,
that,
no, no, no.
that they're not doing a good job of letting people know about it.
It's a significant portion. A significant portion, certainly in the United States Senate. About 88% of them they consider themselves Christians.
Wow.
You'd never know, right? About
That's the problem.
Salo, perk up. About 8% of the Senate. About 8% of the Senate is Jewish.
8?
Jews control the world, right? All right. We'll save that for another. We'll save that for another conversation. Goodness. Yeah. So no, actually, so 8% are Jews. You've got about 88% are Christians.
Wow.
You'd never know it.
Yes.
You'd never know. We had no
Not
such
at all.
problem with the founding generation. No such problem. They
Yeah.
were overt about it. So the point is, we basically have a cultural atheism. That's it. And so I think, look, I mean, the opposing view has succeeded in shutting Christians up.
I see what you're
Really,
saying.
I mean,
see
it's
what
been
you're saying.
very effective.
I see what you're saying.
I mean,
agree.
and when you saw the Kirk Memorial, we made a point of it on the show. I mean, J.D. Vance said it well. I've not spoken this much about my faith in public, and as much as I've spoken in the last 2 weeks in the past. Why? Why? And if you do, you are branded a Christian nationalist, and so
That is a great experiment though, of just looking at a person, strong, solid guy, all these things, but that articulation, I don't know, there's something about that I'm like, why is that a thing where as much as you've elevated, as much as you've been able to step into an amazing seat, all the things, you just, I don't know, you really wonder why though, of what would hold you back? What would-
Ignorance and fear.
Yeah,
And because they're more loyal to the position than they are to their savior,
yeah.
if they are
They
saved.
should have been Christian nationalists.
Well, I mean, and the bottom line is they're just not persuaded.
Right.
When I first got into politics, I was warned, don't talk about your faith so much.
But I think that's
I
the
said,
thing
I'm not
too.
gonna
though.
run
I
that.
think there's, and you may speak to this even more, but within the circle of politics, there's been the adoption, correct me if I'm wrong, the adoption of that separation of church and like, don't talk about that, leave that out. We talk about politics here, you talk about church over there or faith over there. And I think it may have just been something that, drank the Kool-Aid on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but many people stepping into politics are like, okay, well, that kind of stays at the door. Because I can only imagine how many more other JD Vances are out there if there's 80% in Senate.
Well, because
And
the
you would
reason why,
never
I mean,
know.
we've had these conversations
Yeah,
with
yeah.
other pastors. Pastors and Christians don't know how to talk about it.
He's got to go back to the pastors.
Well, I mean,
he's got to go back to the church.
Well, brother, I mean,
he's
it's
got to
just-
put it back on
Well,
us.
I mean,
Rightfully so,
accountability.
rightfully so,
I mean, no, but
rightfully
you know that. I
so.
mean, you know how many people that I talk with and encourage and kind of spar
Yes,
with
yes,
on how to
yes.
handle these issues.
Totally.
They know where they stand on this, but they don't know how to explain it well.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to bring it in a way that's logical. And I think that was Charlie Kirk's strength. He was a very good apologist.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't wear that label of a pastor, although he was pastoral.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did a better job than vast majority of pastors. And so pastors can learn from that. And there has to be, look, Paul did it in Acts to the Athenians, right? He gave
Yeah.
an apologia. That's the whole premise of this podcast.
Yeah.
To be able to give an apologia, a defense, a reason
Yeah.
why we have a Christian worldview. 1 Peter 3:15, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone.
Yeah.
While you have the hope within you, do it with gentleness and respect. And so we just don't know how to do that because we don't train. You're not going to do something you're not trained to do.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if you don't study and train something, you're not going to reproduce it because there's no muscle memory. That's not part of your vernacular, your mindset, your thinking, whatever it is. And I just think the church is so ill-equipped, and politicians are the same way.
Yeah.
Because where do they come from? They usually come from the church or around the church.
Yeah, and I think the placement of it too, because I've been in denominational settings, and honestly, wherever I've been, just from whether it's Presbyterian world or Assemblies of God, Church of God in Christ, all these different spaces, there's always been different moments in time when I think back of robust conversations of how much should country and national like symbolism be within the church. And I mean, from flags to
I don't want any flags.
constitutions
Yeah,
to-
I don't
but
want.
That's what I mean, though. There's
Yeah,
been.
I don't want
but
an
you'll
Israeli
have-
flag. I don't
you'll
want an
have
American flag.
Hardcore
I
conversation
don't in the
of people
church.
on the
I
other
don't.
side. And so I think there's been all these things, and I've always been in a spot too where I'm just kind of like I was honestly through all those conversations very young, but sitting in it, I think at the core there's been a little bit of we want to warn against, we want to be careful of that mixing on the Sunday, the Lord's Day, the faith, and all those things. So I don't know. As you were speaking, it made me think about those things within the church world that have been conversations of making sure, again, allegiance and of affection it stays in proper place. But
Yeah,
I don't know. You made me think about
I
that.
think
You made me
pastors
think
ought to
about
be
that.
praying. In my view, I think pastors ought to be praying for the nation on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should be when Nico closes men's Bible
1000%.
study, he routinely plays for our political leaders
all
on
of
both sides. I think that ought to be routine across the country in every church and every service. We ought to
Mm-hmm.
be praying because I think it's
We prayed for Biden when he was in office.
yeah, it doesn't matter.
We prayed for Trump. We prayed for anybody. We
regardless
prayed for
of-
Democrats,
Sure, I don't care
Republicans. We
who's
prayed
in
for all
office.
of them.
You pray for the country.
Yep.
So while I'm not saying you got to have a flag in the sanctuary, I don't care if there's an American flag in there.
Mm-hmm.
The decay of conscience from Charles Finney.
Oh.
You read that, right? The decay of conscience from Charles Finney?
No.
The decay of
I'll read it.
conscience.
I'll read it in a second.
Listen to me.
Let him-
I don't have a problem with an American flag being in a church. I'm not going to advocate for one. It's not a big deal for me. But if
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's
yeah.
one there, I mean, it seems to me okay
Mm-hmm.
that you have, because this is possible because of the freedoms that have been forged in this country, and that's possible
Mm-hmm.
because the founders and the framers of the founding documents
Mm-hmm.
attached themselves to the priorities of the Scripture.
How do you feel if they got all the nation's flags across the whole church?
I mean, that's fine. I'm less concerned about that.
Yeah.
I don't
I've
like
seen
it.
that too.
I've seen it and it bothers
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I've seen it
Pentecostal,
too. Yeah, yeah.
Pentecostal churches are big on that.
actually seen it
They're
in
big
the
on flags in general.
non-denominational.
I mean, there's a flag for everything.
But I don't
true.
want to see any of that to me. I mean, yes, you're right. It shouldn't matter if there's an American flag in an American church. I get all that. But let me ask you, Momo.
Come on.
Answer me a question.
Oh.
When you see an American flag, which political party do you think of? Which one? Just which one?
I plead the no. I'm just kidding. I think
First, you already
there's-
had the answer, that's why you didn't want to answer it.
No,
It's
I
Republican.
think a Republican.
Yes, okay.
conservative,
But see, it never
for
used to
sure.
be that. When I first got into politics,
yeah.
But see, right there, you're making a claim, and that sucks because politics has influenced the church again.
Mm-hmm.
We've had. This is my point. And it shouldn't be that way because
Tell me what you. Yeah, keep going. Sorry. keep
because
going.
it shouldn't be that way. You think of an American, you put an American flag.
Yeah.
You ask anybody today.
Yeah.
Not 10 years ago.
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
this way 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Today, you walk and you do block walking,
Mm-hmm.
and you say you're trying to, and you're American flag, Republican.
Somebody on the right,
Republican.
yeah.
You're not thinking. I promise you, and no one's. You're not being honest.
No,
if you
you
if
think
you
of
think
somebody-
if you think that you think a Democrat
You
first
think
thing
of the
off your
right.
mind.
No, you think of the right.
and it
Yeah,
shouldn't be that
Republican.
way. It shouldn't be that way.
It's true.
So as a church,
true.
I'm
I
not
agree. I
appealing
agree.
to one side.
I
That
agree.
and it's a shame. Yes, it sucks, George. All churches should have an American flag. They should be able to. I'm not advocating for it. To me, I don't whatever. But
I'm not either. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, but to me right now, I don't want any flags. I just want Jesus. Right now, there's so many distractions that not you and not
No,
this
but you-
pastor and not
yeah,
at
yeah,
your
yeah.
church, but churches they've been this dormant.
Yeah.
And they've handed shit over.
Yeah.
And I just right now, let's get back to the basics.
I hear you.
Assess
I agree.
the battlefield and make up ground. I understand we can't give anything away. We gave in too much away. Get back to what we gave away. Forget about this new thing. Let's go back over here.
See, and
That's just me.
I mean, no, you're right. You're right, but it's just irritating as hell.
I know.
That it got to that
For
point.
sure,
Look,
for
there's
sure.
a book. There's a book.
For sure.
There's a book by not Michelle, Catherine Stewart,
Mm-hmm.
called "The Power Worshippers: Inside the Dangerous Rise of Religious Nationalism." Okay. And then she focuses, not surprisingly, on Christian nationalism, and she says the Bibles of
Black Christian
No.
nationalism.
Whoa. Where'd you
Whoa,
get
whoa,
that?
whoa,
Hey!
whoa. Oh, I'm
It's an
asking.
oxymoron. There's no such thing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
What's wrong with you?
oh my gosh, man! All right,
Too many jokes.
All right, let's
Sorry,
talk
where
about the
you
Nation of
going?
Islam. We got Farrakhan. Oh, geez,
Right, yeah,
another
Black
conversation.
Hebrew Israelites. Where are we talking? Where are we going?
And I think that's the title of the book. I have it at home, but I typically take a snapshot of the cover so I don't get the title wrong. But it's Inside the Dangerous Rise of Religious Nationalism, and she said that the Bibles of Christian nationalism answer to the requirements. Listen to that. Answer to the requirements of the individuals who fund the movement and grant it power. So just getting back to Nico just made me think about that because I don't want a flag in there because they're merely going to attach it with the church is in bed with a party and so forth. See, by that argument, you have this sort of you have, according to her anyway, you have this group of leaders and they manipulate these naive, religious congregants to their own needs. And it's just irritating. But over time, that was allowed to be seeded in the mindset.
Yeah, well,
of the
I mean,
public.
I said
And
this to Mo and other pastors and Marquise the other day. I think the church needs to quit talking about partisanship and talk about politics.
yeah, you bet.
We need to talk about politics, not partisanship.
Yep.
We're obsessed with it. Republican, I got Republicans, I got Democrats, just look. We're going to talk about polity and political politics, the ideas, and whatever the biblical ideas, wherever they lead you, then you passionately, unapologetically vote that way.
Yeah.
And it may be different in 10 years. It may be
Yeah.
different 5 years. It surely was different 10 years ago and 15 years ago.
1873, read that.
18, okay, I'll read it right now. But all I'm saying is churches need to talk about politics, not partisanship. Now, if you talk about partisanship today, it's going to lead you somewhere. But as long just vote the Bible. Period. End of story. What am I reading?
The Decay of Conscience.
The Decay of
Charles Finney, 1873.
1873. If immorality prevails in the land, the fault is ours in a great degree. If there is a decay of conscience, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the public press lacks moral discrimination, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the church is degenerate and worldly, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the world loses its interest in religion, the pulpit is responsible for it. If Satan rules in our halls of legislation, the pulpit is responsible for it. If our politics become so corrupt that the very foundations of our government are ready to fall away, the pulpit is responsible for it. I love this dude. This is excellent. Let us not ignore this fact, my dear brethren, but let us lay it to heart and be thoroughly awake to our responsibility to respect the morals of this nation. Bro, that is amazing. Who is this?
1873.
Who is this?
Charles Finney.
Who's that? Who's Charles
Finney.
Finney?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Finney's solid.
Do we know who he is?
Yeah.
You know who he is?
Yeah. Finney sounds familiar. I've read Finney before.
Not Michael Finney. They're not talking about basketball player.
No. I know Finney.
All right. Look him up real quick.
Yeah.
You don't even know who he is? You giving me his
Finney,
states?
New Yorker, December 4th,
I know, sir.
1873.
Well, this is excellent. I'm going to save it. This is excellent. Thank you,
American
Salo.
minister. Yeah.
He's an American minister?
Uh-huh.
This is excellent. I think this is absolutely outstanding.
You wonder why he cares so much about the pulpit.
Yeah.
American Presbyterian minister.
Wow.
Yeah, leader in the Second Great Awakening.
Just slapped us, Mo. Slapped us, Mo.
Called the father of old revivalism.
Man, I don't
That was
remember.
excellent, Salo. Thank you for sharing that.
I don't remember Finney in the Second Great Awakening, but I'm gonna look into that. Yeah, that's a great statement. I think.
Yeah.
Isn't it a great statement? What a great statement.
Yeah, it's heavy.
Well, no, but it's essential what we've been advocating for so long. But what a way to say it! I love it. I mean, that's
So,
why I'm so drawn to it.
Since
We've
we're
been
since
advocating
we're
this.
across from a lawyer,
It's a shot.
a significant text in American education was written by a constitutional law professor, Edward J. Mansfield, and in 1851, I think it was called American Education: Its Principles and Elements, and he had this to say. All right. Now, if he said this today, he'd be a Christian nationalist, I think. Quote, in every country, the morals of a people, whatever they may be, take their form and spirit from their religion. Did you hear that?
Yes.
All right. For example, the marriage of brothers and sisters was permitted among the Egyptians because such had been the precedent set by their gods, Isis and Osiris. So too, the classic nations celebrated the drunken rites of Bacchus, otherwise known as Dionysus, god of wine, pleasure. Thus, too, the Turk has become lazy and inert because dependent upon fate, as taught by the Quran. And when in recent times there arose a nation, for example, France, whose philosophers like Voltaire and Rousseau and Diderot and Helvetius, etc., discovered that there was no God and no religion, the nation was thrown into that dismal case in which there was no law and no morals. In the United States, Christianity is the original, spontaneous, and national religion. End of quote. So the point being, we're not making people be Christians.
Yeah, yeah.
What we're saying is we've picked
Yeah.
from the lot these set of principles
That's right.
that are
Right,
informed.
right,
Yes,
right,
there are theological components, obviously,
yes.
behind them. But we've taken these set of sociological principles that we think are constructive.
Yeah.
And we believe that a nation who sets its mindset, its national mindset on them will flourish.
Yes.
And so that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
There's no mandate, there's no requirement, there's no forced conversion. No, this isn't Islam.
Yeah.
Right? So
That's good.
I think it's important. I'm wondering how appropriate it is to provoke and then educate. Nico's got
I
a
hear
point.
you. I hear
Today
you.
it's so charged, you may not get past the provocation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important that we get back to this.
Well, I'm drawn.
It really is.
I'm drawn. You know, and many people have brought this up, and I think it's relevant why it's so important. We talk about it. Proverbs 14:34, right?
Read it for me.
Righteousness exalts a nation. Well, where do you get your definition of righteousness? That it all comes down to
Yeah, yeah.
definitions. But sin condemns any people.
Yeah.
I mean, so righteousness and sin needs to be defined by something. To this the good Pastor Finney's point.
Yeah.
That who's been the arbiter and the defender of these definitions? The church, the
Yeah.
pulpit. And so and in the founding of this country, the pulpit went from pastor to soldier,
Totally.
and we
I-
got to be able to do that.
And I,
Can I ask a question, George? Because today I think everybody, and Nico is upset about the responsibility of the church, right? We haven't done our job. Would you say that everything started because we started creating this idea of a church service?
Instead of house?
Instead of houses, instead of having personal relationships and saying, you know what, I have to have a pastor. Thank God for pastors. I'm not saying that, but we created this system, and I hate it when we criticize Catholics because they have their pope or their priest, and then we become the same thing. And we become, we have a pastor. Oh, they are the called ones. They are the ones that with the responsibility of sharing the gospel, of praying and interceding and teaching, and then nobody has that responsibility anymore. Why? Because we make this particular church structure that we're too stuck in it, that now it's hard to get the politics in because it wasn't supposed to be like that. We were supposed to be out there advocating for the cross, You think that creating the system messed us up?
Well, I think there's a lot to say for the effects of urbanization on how we do church today over time. I mean, you do remember such a thing as a country church. I mean, it actually was very much like the New Testament in the sense that it's like if you left a church, you literally had to leave your town. Which would suck today. We don't do that today. You stay in your town, you might leave your church because there may be 20 of them. They don't talk to each other, which is another discussion. But the Mennonites had the concept of the meeting house, to your point, and they would meet. But I don't remember a detachment from political realities. I remember integration.
yeah, yeah.
I
But
do.
see, but Jesus, and correct me, George, as I think back, Jesus spoke to thousands, but they were almost like conventions, so to speak. They weren't regular meetings. The gathering of the saints was in smaller groups.
Sure.
Now, whether that's because they just didn't have organization back then, or that was the prescription, which one would it be if you biblically to be able to defend that?
Well, I mean, in that particular culture, the synagogue was central to help people interact. I mean, it was primarily a Judaic people. So the synagogue was where legal matters got settled and where worship also happened. I mean, it's not where the sacrifices happened. That was in the temple. But in terms of routine worship, it was that synagogue was everything, which is why one of the reasons is why John 9 is such an important chapter, because those were the threats that he would be excommunicated from the synagogue simply because he was challenging
And
the
Jesus
authority
never
of the
challenged the
Pharisees.
synagogue.
And-
He never challenged that system.
No, Jesus actually went into it and used it as a way. In fact, Luke
Yeah.
chapter 4, verse 18, where he's reading from Isaiah and he's talking about himself.
Yeah,
Right, which is one of my
Yeah.
one of my favorite. It's just beautiful. And
Right.
so Jesus went everywhere and anywhere. But that synagogue was a political seat, but it was also a worship seat, and it was central.
But I think
in the New Testament. Sorry to interrupt you, and I'll shut
No,
up.
you're good.
Once Jesus ascends, and now you have the flourishing of the early church, Judea, Samaria, and the utmost parts of the earth.
Yeah.
It was all meeting houses. It was literally house churches. I'm of the belief that it's probably a good idea to get back to that.
And one of the reasons I say this is because I understand most frustration being a pastor, a leader of the church, and I understand it's like the church is the Lord's wife, right? You don't want to talk bad about the wife, right? You don't. And I think it's in the back of our mind. I'm like, really, Nico, you're talking bad about the church again. And I understand where you're coming from, but I'm like, I think we're all at fault to a certain degree that we created that system. And now we can't get out of it because it came with a lot of little details. I'm like, okay, only the pastor is qualified or spiritual, and little by little, directly and indirectly, we started getting that idea that it's their responsibility again. And now when we say, okay, the church has to talk about politics, we think that it's that building. No, it's everybody. And I think a lot of things that have been formed in our
It
mind.
is a beautiful story. I was thinking it was so familial and so personal, when you did have that local church,
yeah,
that
for
country
sure.
church. And so you could have people who didn't believe in God,
Yeah.
but they were so suffused by the Christian culture and the ethos that in essence, in many ways, they lived by the ethic, but they
Right.
just didn't adopt the theological elements, right?
I love
And I don't know. I mean, and it's in that environment that I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of patriotism.
So we need to stop going to church.
But to that same point, though, I mean, in this conversation of even the synagogue, the warning, I think, is what even why sparked this conversation. When you see Jesus driving out people because this was a house of prayer and you've exchanged it as a den of thieves, right? Like this flipping of the tables. It's like, what are you've allowed things to come in that were never meant to be. And I think there's just again, it may be even fringe, maybe even more of like a trending thing right now. But I think in good faith, if there's anybody pushing on it, it's just saying that piece of like, don't be careful of too much of the blending and the mixing, because we can get to a place where we now establish
and I'm
things
not-
within the synagogue that's not supposed to be
Yeah,
there.
I'm not into the blending and mixing. I'm into the influencing.
Oh yeah,
But
that's a
the-
great
the church-
clarification.
yeah, the
It's
church
a great
needs to
clarification.
influence.
It's
needs
what
to-
he's talking about with the
yeah.
meeting house of them being together. It's like influenced, even with people aren't necessarily have adopted everything or have surrendered to the Lord Jesus. Like, but I'm influenced by this community, this setup, this structure of this ethic that you guys are living into. And there's a way to do it. And I think that's the biggest thing. And again, it all goes to how we're discipling people, how we're shaping people, because with all of this conversation, and why I love the clarification of even what we're doing here is it's important to make sure the distinction of the bad faith actors and those like what we're talking about. We're not talking about some dominion and forcing conversion and like these are, and of course people can kind of cherry pick at these random things. And I know we keep going back to it, but I think that there was something powerful. I mean, we're seeing testimonies from people that is like, there's something about this Erica lady that has broken through to me, and I don't want nothing to do with God, but whatever she's the influence, whatever that forgiveness that she's holding on to, our world needs more of this. And I just think that when it comes to being the church, while I fully agree with the role of the pastor and the discipleship piece, and we can get into way more of that, but there was somebody who, from the local pastor, the local church, discipled Erica, discipled Charlie to live in such a way that they influenced others around them. And so it's that piece of, but you guys know, we got so much representation out there that's like, what? I mean, we were just in a group text together of watching a guy just like do damage to Christian faith. I don't even know who the guy was. George knew him off the bat.
That white dude?
Yeah, long black hair,
Oh,
and
God,
he has a book
irritating.
coming out. That's where I called BS. But he's got a book and all the things, and you
so-
hear him talk about Christianity, and I'm like,
Fusagang, yeah.
oh
yeah,
my
Fusagang.
gosh,
God, he was irritating.
that's the Christian.
I
That's the
almost, I
Christian.
almost broke my phone.
Don't get me started. Yeah, don't get me started.
But I'll say that I'll land here. To that same point, there are people from the passing away of Vodi Bakum. You guys seen Vodi Bakum pass away?
Yeah, man.
He was doing a actual interview one time, and he was talking about taking notice who big media platforms as the Christian. it's this guy. It's the other. It's the ones that we look at and close our face like, geez.
Yeah.
He said CNN brought me on one time.
Oh yeah, did you see it?
So, yeah, you
He
see
destroyed
it.
it.
Brought me on one time, and that's not the Christian representation that gets platformed, and that's when you go into.
But that's why the church.
algorithm,
That's
the
why this Finney statement is so important to me, because we understand the battlefield. You have to know what we're up against.
And, we,
For
and we
sure.
started backing off incrementally over time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just libraries of evidence, truly. I mean, there's case law that influenced really American jurisprudence for at least 100 years,
Yeah.
where not central but tangential to the rulings actually expressed the influence, the substantial central influence of Judeo-Christianity on America's institutions.
Yeah.
Chief Justice John Marshall, you can look these up now. You can probably buy them. The Papers of John Marshall. He left memoirs. There's an insertion, May 9th, 1833. Chief Justice, writing, with us, Christianity and religion are identified. The Republic he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It would be strange, he said. He needs to get out more. It would be strange indeed if with such a people, us, our institutions did not presuppose Christianity and did not often refer to it and exhibit relations with it.
I like that one more.
And so,
I like that one more.
so in retort,
Yeah.
there's two scholars. I don't know if you've read The Godless Constitution.
No.
That's a good book to buy. Kramnik and Moore, two Cornell University's professors. They wrote in there that it was a totally secular document made for a secular nation, and the founders had entirely secular preoccupations. And the argument for that is that Article 6 of the Constitution says that there's no religious litmus test. Obviously, the Constitution doesn't mention deity, it doesn't mention anything. And the reality is, and we addressed it last week, the reality is the Constitution didn't have to address that because at that time, as we know,
presupposed.
there were tons of state constitutions
Yeah.
that informed
Yes.
really sort of the religious requirements. There actually were religious tests and oaths in state level constitutions. And the concern of the framers, the answer to this, is that the concern of the framers is they actually they wanted a clear delineation at the federal level. They didn't,
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah,
states'
yeah.
rights
I hear
issue.
you.
They wanted the states to make that decision.
yeah.
And they already knew. There's nothing in there repudiating the states for having these religious tests. That's the point. And you
yeah,
read
we
state
talked about it last
constitution
week.
after state constitution after state constitution, you literally have to not only not make fun of the church and Jesus Christ, but you actually have to profess a faith in Christ. Yes, there
To do
was
what?
To serve and
To serve in.
requirement.
Okay.
Any
Okay.
political
to serve an elected
position.
office. That's
In
right.
elected
2016,
office.
in 2016, working with Mark Gonzalez, you met him, right? Mark Gonzalez. One of the things we were doing in different states, we would go to different organizations, we bring the pastors together, and we would tell them, like, pastors, you have a women's ministry, you have a men's ministry, you have a kids ministry. Why don't you start a civic engagement ministry? Why? Because sometimes we think the pastor needs to be doing everything. You want the pastor in every single department and leading every single department, and if they fail, you're like, you're wrong because you didn't do this. So part of the strategy was, okay, let's enlist you in civic engagement ministry, and we'll give you the tools. Why? Because every church, Mark would say, you should send people from your church that love politics or love the government, that love reading the newspaper. Go get involved with parent-teacher conferences or the things with the school district, or getting involved and trying to develop soldiers for the city. That's what you call it. But anyway, I think that was an amazing idea, but we need more of it.
Is that a pastor you're referring to?
He used to be a pastor, but then he started working in politics.
Okay. Okay.
American presidents throughout the ages.
I mean, just read George Washington's.
Go ahead, please. But would
farewell speech is the more of a sermon.
would
than anything else.
yes, please read that. But I was going to say just simply that they would
read it.
they would profess that America is a Christian nation.
Yeah.
It's not a theocracy.
No.
It's a nation built on Christian principles, and we derive
Yeah.
our identity as a people
Yeah.
in terms of priorities, right?
And
in
I
terms
think-
of our culture,
Yeah.
from from Judeo-Christian ethic.
And where people are think is so triggered, and why we need the engagement and the civics and all the things, is that for whatever reason they go to this idea of this domination, this leveraging Christians over other, like it goes to this other wonky place, And what I think is helpful is, as you guys are even articulating, it's the influence and it's the presupposition that we're pulling from something. It's not out of thin air that we have been compelled to create something like this. It's based off of something. And so you don't have to convert to anything. That's not what we're saying. Saulo may be trying to say that, but we don't have to force conversion or all these things. And even to the point where people have argued, like, are you guys trying to go back to people having to profess to be elected and all these things? And I just think that this is helpful to, like, we're pressing to a place of saying there is a foundation that's already here. I think we were talking about even after the podcast last week, that, I mean, we're being redundant. I'm being redundant a little bit, but that we built this nation off of Christian ethics, Christian principles, and there's something about that we should refer to, that we should look at, and recognize, even for people who are not of the Christian faith. We firmly believe, and we've seen that people can flourish within a society based off this Christian experiment, or based off this nation's experiment,
Which it was,
influenced by
but yeah,
Christian values. Yeah.
That
But I
wasn't a
think it may
Freudian
be
slip.
semantics, but for others, you take my words out of context and all sorts of things.
No, there's nothing to take
Not
out of
you,
context.
but-
Yeah, I think it's accurate. Look, I mean, the bottom line is, George, it's a curse. I'm just joking. No, I'm just teasing. Look, I hope this conversation helped people. I mean, it helps us to talk it through. I know you enjoy talking these things through, but we
flushing it
need to
out.
do these things. The reason why it feels like a foreign discussion when we bring these things up is because George has been pounding this drum for a long time. The schools, we got to get our schools back. We don't teach our history. And the bottom line
That's
is, if
so
we
true.
just teach history, just teach the formation of this country, the ideology. You don't have to push it on anybody, just teach it. And people can make up their own minds. And we've gotten so far away. And that's why I am a huge proponent to get away from the administrative state. These unelected officials.
What do you mean by that?
Administrative state. FDA, this acronym, these people
All
that
the
get
three
appointed
letters.
to these, they get appointed to these organizations or these groups that they make laws and they enforce laws and they're not elected. They're not accountable to anybody.
The regulatory agencies, there's
regulatory-
hundreds of them,
I
literally.
mean, we are a country, the experiment was a country of the people,
Wow.
by the people,
Yeah.
for the people. They were virtuous and they were intelligent. And that's why you don't need a government to get involved in your life.
you don't need a fourth
If you know how to
branch.
treat your neighbor and if you're not stupid as crap, then you don't need the government to step in. Take care of the borders. Make sure we have law enforcement. Make sure the roads are there so we can conduct business.
Yeah.
And give me freedom.
Yeah.
That's it. Let me worship. Let me have ideas. Let me express those ideas. Let me go to school. Let me buy property. Give me the great American dream.
Buy guns.
Buy guns. Yes, as many guns as you can. Yes, sir. Thank you. I want guns. I have guns. With me at all times.
Let me quote somebody
All
else who
let's-
loves guns.
Yeah.
Quote,
Who?
the teachings of the Bible are so interwoven and entwined with our whole civic and social life that it would be literally impossible for us to figure to ourselves what that life would be like if these teachings were removed. President Teddy Roosevelt.
The one that got shot and he just kept the bullet
just
inside of
kept
him because
going.
he's a tough son of a bitch. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Hope this is helpful to you. Share this with someone you think may benefit from it, and give us suggestions. Type in, write in, make a comment on what topics you want to hear and listen from us and analyze, whether it's theological, biblical, whatever it is, or societal or political. We don't mind. We don't run away from anything. And God bless you guys. Bye bye.
And he was a shitty president, but